Everybody, welcome back to the How to Podcast series, where I get to talk to amazing podcasters from around the world. And when I get a podcaster on from Canada, but she's got way more to talk about than just being from Canada. She's here now, and we've accepted her here in Canada. We love her. But she's here to talk about her journey as a podcaster. She's an author as well. She's on my Living the Next Chapter podcast. Spectacular interview with her. And Urmi's with me today, and I'm so excited to have her here. You're going to learn a lot from this amazing podcaster and a great show for you to fall in love with as well. Urmi, welcome to the How to Podcast series as my guest co-host. Good to have you here.
Yes, I'm excited.
Excellent. Great. So I'm in Ontario, Canada. You're in a different province. Tell everybody where you are.
I'm in Montreal, Quebec.
There you go. Excellent. Yeah. How long have you been in Montreal?
It's been quite a long time, 15 years.
Oh, 15 years. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Good. But your background, though, you've lived different places. You've been a part of many different cultures. And I'm a little jealous because you have some different ways of seeing the world, where if you're born one place and live one place and that's all you know, it's all you know. But you know many different things. Give a little background to your family and where you've ended up and kind of your journey to Montreal.
Yes. So as you said, I did live in different places. I was born and raised in Italy, and specifically, I was born in Sicily, Palermo. I lived there for 9 years, and we moved around Italy a lot. We went to the north. We went to the region of Lombardia, then we went to UK for a year, came back, and this time we were in Milan for 5 years. So I have done school in different places of Italy, like elementary in one place, high school in another place, and I also did school in UK, where I have learned English, and then in 2010 I have moved to Canada, Montreal, basically, where I have been living for 15 years. And to go back to what you said, yes, I do have exposure to different cultures, but I always feel very jealous and envious towards people that have one place where they have lived. Like maybe you think, oh, it's great that I had exposure to many places, but you probably have lived in one place where you can go back to, that you call home, where you have all the memories, whereas I don't have that, because I consider myself being everywhere and nowhere at the same time, and I don't have one specific place or a physical structure that I can call home. For me, home is a feeling, whereas for you, I'm assuming it's something else.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm thinking, wow, I would love to be like Urmi. And then you're like, well, I like to be like Dave. Like, we want to switch lives. But yeah, I think what I love when I hear you talk, that I hear when you start mentioning cities and places in Italy, I hear it come out. Some of the Italian in your voice and the accent. And I'm like, oh, I love how Italian words just kind of seem to roll together. Like, they're just like this quick little when you guys talk. It just, I find that so amazing to hearing that. My friend right now is, her name is Myra. She's from Canada, but she's in Italy half of the year, and Canada the rest of the part of the year. So she's in Italy right now, and she has a podcast that teaches Italian. So step by step, she teaches you how to learn Italian from an English to Italian perspective. So when I hear her talk, I hear some of you in there as well. We have listeners in Italy that listen to the show. So before we move forward, do you want to just say hello? Because I can't do it in English, but can you say hello to the people that are listening in Italy as well?
Do you want me to say it in Italian?
I would love it. That would make me so happy.
Ok, ciao a tutti ascoltatori, spero che vi godiate l'episodio di oggi.
See, now that sounds so cool. That sounds so cool. I love it. Okay, so we'll get, if you want more about Urmi's book, which we'll talk about in a second, her book, her story, we get really into it, and we had a great conversation there. So Living the Next Chapter, we'll put a link for that episode. Go there and listen and buy the book. Let's talk about the book while we're here. Urmi, tell everybody about your book. What is it about? And they can go listen more at Living the Next Chapter.
So my book is called Discovering Your Identity, a Rebirth from Intergenerational Struggle, and it's available on Amazon. And basically my book is about my life in Italy from a perspective of a third culture kid. So basically, I make a comparison between the Italian culture and the Bengali culture and the struggle that I went through as a child and also as a teenage girl. And basically I'm just making a comparison between the two cultures and how it was hard for me to fit in either one of the two cultures because I always felt like I was being pulled in either ways. And
Right.
so it's a sort of like a memoir, basically.
Excellent. We'll have links for all that as well. Yeah, no, it was a great conversation. And I loved having you on that show. So thank you. Let's talk podcasts. Tell everybody about your show. What is it about? Because I know you're also a guest on podcasts. I hear you all over the place. So you're kind of doing both worlds, which I love. But tell
Yes.
everybody about your show.
So my podcast is called Stories Beyond Borders. I have launched the podcast about 3 months ago. And the reason why I started the podcast is because, I've been to so many podcasts as a guest, and now I was like, okay, let me just change, role and put on another hat. And I was like, okay, I want to be the host of a podcast. And I decided to basically launch it. And I've been thinking for a while, like, what do I talk about? What am I passionate about? And I was like, you know what? I talk about immigration in a lot of this podcasts I go to. I talk about my cultural identity. I was like, let me just give a platform for other people to do the same and share their story. And so that's how I created the podcast. And I can definitely tell you there was a lot of work behind. I didn't think it was that much work, but I'm happy I've done it because I feel like I can say I have created my own podcast, which is not what everyone can do. So I don't know. How was it for you when you have launched your podcast?
Well, I have to remember because it was a while ago. But for me, it was the accomplishment of doing something that I really wanted to do. And that feeling of seeing it on Spotify or Apple or Audible, wherever, seeing my podcast right next to all those other big podcasts that I really like. And my little show is right there beside them. It's like, it's real. Like it's a real thing. My show is there and people can listen. And then when you start getting people listening to your show that aren't your relatives or people you know from countries you've never been to,
Hmm.
you've been to many places, but for me, I haven't been very many places. And when somebody listens to my show in Italy, I'm like, what?
I know,
And I
right?
just had somebody 2 weeks ago, Urmi, they sent me a buy me a coffee thing for my website where they can give to the show.
Yeah.
And somebody from Iceland sent me 5 coffees. So just say thank you. And they're listening in Iceland. And I'm like, I want to go to Iceland. I'm like, what? This is amazing. So the fact that our world is so small through podcasting, right?
Yeah.
And all the people you get to meet, I get to meet you. Like, this is great. But the world is so small as a guest or as a host. You just get to meet great people. And I didn't really expect that when I first started. I was
Hmm.
going to have guests, but we we connect with people better, and having a show is just a great reason to meet great people that you would not meet otherwise. So that's kind of the one thing I really love about podcasting.
Yeah.
What else do you love about podcasting now that you are officially a podcaster?
I think the idea that I created the podcast. I think I like
Yeah,
that idea. Like it's me creating it, bringing into life something. So I feel like there's a lot of fulfillment in that. I feel like not many people can go around and say, "Oh, I'm a podcaster," because there is so much work behind. And I think I also like the idea of meeting new people, but also having the control of like what I want to release. So it's like
right.
you running your own, I want to say like company that in that sense. So you have that sense of like ownership on that. And I feel like people look at you with different eyes too when you have a podcast. I don't know if you feel the same way too, because one of my coworkers I was asking me about me. Oh, she was like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" I said, "Yeah, I have it." And she was like, "Oh, is it on Spotify?" I said, "Yes, it's on Spotify." So it's nice to see the effect and how people look at you. So I don't know if you had the same kind of reaction, like people look at you differently when you have like a podcast. So
Yeah, people that are like maybe I work with or I meet out and whatever, and they're like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I'm like, "Well, I'm meeting Yurmi and we're going to be doing a podcast together." They're like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I have a podcast." And like, I don't really talk about it all the time, but they're like, they pull out their phone. They're like, "Show me," and they like hold up their phone, and I click the buttons and go, "Yeah, that's me." They're like, I know a podcaster. Like they're just
Yeah.
like, it's so cool because not everybody even knows what a podcast is, even
Yeah.
still today in 2025, right?
Yeah.
So I love that expression on their face. I had one person, which is really interesting. There, where I work, there's some students from India that work here where I work, and they're young. They're like the age of my children, so I'm an old man. Anyway, one of them came up to me at work, and he doesn't speak fluent English, so he's learning English here in Canada, and he said to me, "You have a podcast?" And I said, "Yeah." And he pulled out his phone and he pointed. He's like, "Is this you? Is this you?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can we take a selfie? Because it's sent to my family back in India." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, of me? You want a picture of me?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah," because I've never met a podcaster before, right? And I'm like, so I'm doing a selfie at work with my coworker who's like half of my age, so he can send it to his parents back home because he met a podcaster, and I'm like, oh, that was a weird moment. I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. So yeah,
Yeah, and I don't know, I have a question for you. Like, I don't know if you have like did research or if you took courses before you launched your podcast. Because for instance, me, I asked a few people about advice and tips, and then I launched it based on like observing other podcasters and being on so many podcast shows. I had a feeling of like what worked and what didn't work. And only
yeah,
recently I took a course to understand a little bit about podcasting. I took a course on Udemy. Although everything they were saying was it was pretty familiar to me. Like even before taking the course, I was like, I already knew all of these things. Did you use any particular resource?
mostly listening to other podcasts about podcasting. I think that was kind of my main source of information. Buying books too. There's a lot of great books. There's a book called Point. It's right beside me. That you should probably take a look at. There's an audio version too. It's called "The Audience is Listening," and I'll put it in our show notes as well. A Little Guide to Building a Big Podcast by Tom Webster. There's a little bunny rabbit at the bottom of the book here on the page, but that's the name of the book. The Audience is Listening. A Little Guide to Building a Big Podcast. I would tell you, Yirmi, have this book sitting next to your microphone. This is a great resource for you. And it's a book that you can keep with you and keep referring to. There's so much great information in this book. And I tell all my podcasters, this is kind of like a must have. So it's The Audience is Listening, A Little Guide to Building a Big Podcast. Tom Webster is the name of the author. And you'll know it because there's a little bunny rabbit on the front cover. It's a really practical book, very encouraging, very helpful. And I don't think this book is going to be out of date. Like the information is something that will be good into the future for you. So it's a good book to have. And I encourage everybody to grab it. So resources like this are helpful for any podcaster. Did you come across any podcasting related resources that a listener could benefit from that you've been using?
So I took a course on Udemy because I have free access to Udemy, and I just searched podcast, and it
Oh, good.
gave me this like I don't remember right now the name of the course, but basically it's all related to podcasting, and they give you like introduction to podcasting and what you need. So they talk about the basics, like the good microphone, how long the
Mhm.
interview has to be. They tell you how often you have to release an episode. They tell you how to find
Good.
guests. They tell you about how to do the cover page of your podcast show and things like that. So it's very like for beginners who want to start podcasting. That was one thing that I have listened to and I've been like watching as well on Udemy. And me a little bit like you, I have been observing other podcasters because I feel like you get to learn a little bit by seeing like what they're good at and what they're not good at, and you
Yeah.
can fix like the problems by implementing those things yourself. So that's one thing that I've been doing is like watching other people. And there is a website where it's called Matchmaker, where basically
Yeah.
you can find like other podcasters. That's one thing
Yeah.
that I have used, and I've seen a little bit how they do it when they're looking for guests. So I've used that in the past to like look for guests and also be a guest myself. And I've been using that a little bit to find out how we can find guests. That has been like a tool that I have used to basically find guests for the show. And since now it's a paid platform. So now like it used to be free. Now it's a paid platform. I
Mhm.
switched from that one, and I tried to come up with my own ways, which is putting a post on Instagram and saying I'm looking for like podcast guests. So
Okay, so we have a whole bunch of podcasters listening right now. So you can now do your advertisement right now in front of all of these people, including people from Italy that are listening. So give us your little pitch. Who are you looking for as a guest on your show? What kind of guests you think will bring value to your show? Because they're listening right now. We'll have links for them to connect with you. Can you explain a little bit more about who your ideal guest would be for your show?
yeah, so basically, my podcast is all about storytelling, and it's the storytelling around the theme of immigration. So basically, people that
Okay.
have moved from one country to another for different reasons, or a little bit about how they're navigating their cultural identity. Maybe they have, I don't know, let's say one parent coming from one country, another parent coming from another country, and they are born in a third different country, and they're trying to navigate that. It's also about language learnings, and we are in a place where people are exposed to so many languages, and sometimes languages are connecting people. So I talk about that as well. So that's what my ideal guest should be. I don't have a typical age range. Usually I go from 20 and plus years old because I feel like even younger people can bring a lot of values. And I just want people to tell their story because I feel like stories are really a way to connect people to come together. And I got the pleasure of listening to so many stories. Like there was someone who recently came and talked about her reason of moving from her own country to the States, and she was saying how she only had a doll with her the day that she left, and it was for like war reasons. And it was so amazing to see, like, to hear that, because you don't expect it, right? Like you don't think these things will happen, but there are people who have moved for different reasons. So that's all I'm looking for.
Let's talk a little bit about getting more younger people into
Mhm.
podcasting. Again, I'm putting my hand up. Hear me. I'm old. Okay, I know it. I'm not pretending to be young. And I want less of this. What you're looking at, this guy, I
Mhm.
want less of this and more young people coming into podcasting,
Yeah.
right? Not that I don't want to be here. I love being in podcasts, but I don't want this to be all dominated by white men, right, from Western cultures. We need more people coming into podcasting from all over the world. We need young people coming in. We need more women in podcasting. I just see so many opportunities. And I love that you have a show. But how do we encourage more people to say that maybe podcasting might be for them?
So let me tell you this. I think things have shifted a lot because
Good.
I think now more and more people want to be able to cultivate the creative side. And I think what I'm noticing a lot is that we have a lot more younger people starting with podcasting. Like
Good.
you think about ways to express an idea, and usually people do it in different ways. But now I feel like podcasting is so accessible.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to start a podcast. It's not like when you are creating a blog or a website where you have to pay for the domain. For a podcast, you typically don't need to have an investment. It's just you're investing your time towards something, and you're investing your time to learning. So one thing that I'm noticing is that podcasting is growing massively. And I can see that there's a lot more people doing that. And honestly, if you want to get a message across, I think with audio is much better than like reading something. And people
Yeah.
can listen to a podcast while they're walking, while, I don't know, walking with their dog, going to grocery, maybe when they are like working out, and it's easy. So
Mhm.
I honestly don't think it's hard to get younger people, because everyone that
Good.
I have met, they are young people, and I go to different events and everyone's saying, yeah, I have a podcast. And I'm like, wow, it's like, okay, I'm not the only
Good.
one in the room. So I don't know. I think we're like going more and more towards like younger people starting their own podcast. And I can see right now the other trend is that maybe during the pandemic everything was like virtual, like the way we're recording. But now I can
Yeah.
see that people are actually like renting places and doing it, let's say from a location, and they invite the guests there, which is also a nice way to like make the podcast more interactive. And it's much more interesting to see two people talking through a
Yeah.
video, I feel like. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What about for you as a podcaster, as a new podcaster, do you feel welcomed by the podcasting community? Did you feel like you came into this whole new thing and other podcasters when you were a guest or as a host, did you feel like you were welcomed into the podcasting community when you started?
Yeah, I did. And I think when you find the right team and the right niche, like everyone is supporting you. They are
Yeah.
like sharing the episode or on their Instagram show in the Instagram page, or maybe they are tagging you somewhere. So I feel like everyone is very much welcoming and everyone wants you to succeed. So for me, it's been quite a nice experience, and everyone that I follow is also doing the same thing along me, and they're like, yeah, let's support each other, let's grow together. So it's been quite welcoming, I have to say. I don't know if you had the same feeling when you started.
Yeah, when I first began, yeah, because I listened to a lot of shows about podcasting, I felt encouraged. That was a nice thing. I didn't know if it would be competitive. I didn't know if it'd be like, well, I'm doing a show about immigration and I'm doing a show about it. Don't you do my show? Right. I felt that everybody just kind of, even if they were doing something very similar to what I was doing, that they were still welcoming. I have a show called Dad Space. It's a podcast for dads. There's a whole bunch of podcasts for dads, but the way I do my show is different than the way they do their show. So it's unique to me and my story. So even though I'm right up against another dad podcast, we work together. And
Yeah.
you don't see that in radio. You don't see that in music maybe as much, or movies, right? You kind of like, don't take my audience, don't take my listeners, right? They're mine, right? I don't find it to be like that. I find it very welcoming and very open for people to connect with each other.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like I used to think the same thing too. I was like, oh, there's so many podcast shows. Like, who would like to listen to my show? But I also
Right.
told myself there is no one who would do something the way I do it. Like we're all unique and original our own ways. So maybe you might not have, I don't know, all the followers of the world, but you will have someone who's like actually listening to your stuff. So, and I can see that sometimes from my statistics, I don't look at them as much because that's not my goal. My goal is really to be able to work on creating something, and then I told myself the numbers will come eventually.
Yeah.
You always have to have that clear goal. It's not about like monetizing. That shouldn't be your first goal. It's more about being able to create something that you can do for yourself that can help other people. And so that's the mindset I started with. I told myself that it's not about monetizing, it's about getting messages across there. And everyone has been so helpful. Some of the people also like give me some tips, and some of them are also asking me like, how often do you release an episode and how do you keep up with this? So I also have to find a way where this is manageable for me, especially because I work in a corporate job and I cannot release an episode every day or every week. So I find
Yeah.
a balance in that. So, and I make sure that the audience knows about it too.
Okay, so people listening, Yurmi is very busy and she squeezed this time in for us today. And I'm so grateful you have. How do you balance then your busyness of life? You're young, you're growing out, you're having fun, you're doing stuff. You have this new thing coming into your life as a podcast. Did you have to get rid of something or scale back on something to make room in your calendar? Or did you have a whole bunch of free time that you did nothing with? How did you balance adding something new to an already busy life?
So I had to get rid of something, and I also had to scale down a little bit. So I used to have a blog, which I wasn't using as much after 4 years, and I was like, okay, I think it's time to close it. And then I was like, okay, let me just go into the next new thing, which was podcasting. Since I had the idea for a while, I had this idea, and I was like, I have to turn this idea into something concrete. And so that's how I created the podcast. And I also told myself I have to find a way to make sure that this is easy for me. So I release an episode once every 3 weeks, but in the meantime I'm also releasing other things, like I'm creating posts where I am advertising the episode that was released. So I
Yeah.
give like book recommendation, I mention a quotation from the guest. So that's how I'm able to keep I'm able to keep everything like alive. And I would say I do I am pretty good at time management. So I do put boundaries when it comes to like what I do in my 9 to 5 and my 5 to 9. And I
Yeah.
make sure that I stick to that. Like that the boundary is very important for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to accomplish the things that I'm doing. Yeah.
When you started your show, you start with what you have, the knowledge you have, and you begin your podcast. What are some things that you're learning about yourself in the process of recording? And how are you kind of making maybe each episode a little bit better and a little bit better and better and better and building? Kind of what's your approach there?
So I'm definitely so at the beginning when I would release an episode, like I would read the bio, not the bio, like I would do the intro with the guest, but now I do it separately, and
Okay.
even the outro. So I have like an intro and an outro like which are separate and they're not part of the actual recording, so that I can already like I can jump off to the recording. That's one thing that I have learned. I learned a lot about editing, which is quite painful, I have to say, when it comes to like audio. It's so painful, but you have to do it, and you have to make
Yeah.
sure that you're re-listening to this episode before it's being released. That's
Right.
very, very important. But at the same time, I also try to keep it raw and spontaneous as possible. Like I don't like
Yeah.
doing too much editing because it's a lot of work, but I try to keep the editing to the minimal.
Yeah.
And what else am I learning? I'm learning to keep the episodes a bit shorter as well, because I
Yeah.
think at the
Okay.
beginning I was like, oh, maybe we can have 40 minutes conversation, but now I'm like, no, 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 no. I think we can
Mm.
get a lot in 20 minutes, and I think it's a good amount of time. I think 20
Right.
minutes, so I give the floor to my guests. It's your platform, it's your chance to tell the story, tell us what you have. So
What are your thoughts about audio podcast versus video podcast? I have a few people that I know that have gone from audio only to adding video. But after they've done several episodes in video, they look at their listen or view time on YouTube, for example, and people aren't watching all of it, but they put a lot of time and money into the video editing and video production, but they're not seeing a great return. What's your thoughts on video for your show, and kind of what are your plans for the future?
no, no, no video for now. I
Okay.
think there's too much work that I have to put if I have to do if I do videos. I think that my goal is to do audio because I want people to listen to it while they're doing stuff. Like if you want to do video, I think you need people to sit down and watch the video. That's the thing.
Okay.
I think people don't have that time. I really don't think people have time to watch a video, although I've seen people doing it. I personally don't watch an episode on
Okay.
YouTube. I personally don't do it. I listen to an episode while I'm walking somewhere because it's just way
Okay.
too hectic for me. And I think for people who are doing videos, like probably they have time to do it and edit the episode. But I personally, I don't think it changes much. I don't know what your thoughts are about this. I've
Yeah.
seen people taking like doing reels out of it, which I think it's good. If you want to highlight something, I think that's enough. If you want to put it on Instagram, but a whole video, I think people don't have time for that. I honestly don't think so. I don't know what you
Yeah.
what you think about it.
Are you getting guests asking you for video of the episode when they come
No,
on your show?
no, they're
Okay.
actually so happy that it's just audio.
Good. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. I have an author podcast, and I have authors who come on and they write under a pen name, right? And they do that because of security reasons, their safety and what they've written about, and they need to be anonymous. They can't be shown on video. And when they come on and I tell them, I'm not going to release the video unless you tell me you want to have the video.
Hmm.
And I'm getting more and more people saying, please don't release the video. Right? And I'm like, okay, I just make a note of it and I don't do it. But then I have people coming on, usually PR agencies that are promoting guests to me are like, where's the video? Where's the video? Where's the video? Where's the video? Like it's the hot thing that everybody has to do. And one thing I always kind of gently push back on, Yurmi, when people tell me that you have to do something in podcasting, I get a little bit suspicious
Hmm.
because when you have to, that's a rule. And there's no rules when we podcast, right? I'm not going to tell you how to do your show.
Yeah.
It's your show. You can do whatever you want, right? So there are no rules technically to what we do. So when somebody tells me I have to do video, I kind of go, why are you telling me that? Are you selling me something to
Mm-hmm.
do video production? Like, is there a reason you're telling me to do that?
So I have a question for you, and you can share your thoughts about it. What do you think about people charging the guest for being on their show?
Mm, okay, that's a good question. Now, I don't have a problem with people doing that if that's how they're going to raise money for their show. And I've talked to many, not many, but some people who do this. My only caution is there are some rules, especially in the US, in America, where if somebody is paying to be on your show, there's a disclosure
Uh,
to your audience that needs to happen. Yurmi's on the show today and she paid me to be here. Wish you didn't. But Yurmi's on the show today and she paid to be on the podcast to promote her book. And you paid me $2,000. If I don't disclose that, I might not get caught, but I might. And if I get caught taking money and not disclosing it to my audience, it's a legal issue, right? So that's my one concern. There are podcasters who are doing this, but they're not telling anybody. They're just keeping it quiet. So that's my only one thing I kind of get a little bit nervous about, right?
yeah.
And then the other thing is, I've heard people who do get paid by their guests, but then they start making money from this and they start counting on the money that's coming in. So doesn't really matter who comes on the show. It's just who can pay to come on the show. And then they'll just get as many people as possible because it becomes income, becomes a job, and they're making money from it. So to pay for my car or my rent and my food, I need another guest. I don't care who it is, as long as they have this amount of money, you get to come on my show. And I'm like, I like being able to say yes to a guest, and I like to be able to say, no, maybe not for my show. So I never charge, but I don't look down on people for doing it. I only give them the caution of, you should be telling people that you're getting paid, because you might get into some trouble legally if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
I was asked many times to pay to be on some shows, and I always declined
Oh,
them.
okay.
Because I just didn't like the way they were promoting and they were like, yeah, we will give you so much exposure and this and that. But I'm thinking I'm getting the same with a show that is not charging me. You know what
Right.
I mean? So I'm like, what is the value added on that? And for me to pay someone, the show must be really good. Like it must be really
Right.
worth it, Like it must be someone who's popular, who's been there for a while. And the other thing is that a lot of people are doing this out of passion. They don't have the means to pay, like it's just like, and some of them, they're charging insane amount of money. And I'm like, where are you getting that number from? Like there must be like a research done that you were able to come up with that number. Some of them are just charging insane amount of money. And I'm just like, you know what? It's not worth it, because I feel like I can get to the same destination with a podcast that is not necessarily charging me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like it.
See, you're more popular than I am because I'm not getting those requests to come on a show and pay to come on. They're not asking me; they're asking you. So congratulations, that's good. But yeah, I haven't paid to be on a show, and I've never charged. Again, there's so many great podcasts out there. So if you're listening and you're like, I'd love to be a guest, but I can't afford it, then go on Yurmi's show and be a guest on her show. She'd love to have you or be
That's
here.
it.
There's free episodes out there, free podcasts to be a part of, right?
That's exactly. That's it. Like, let's just help each other, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. From a guesting perspective,
Hmm.
you've been on many, many shows. We don't have to name these shows, by the way, but as a guest, anything that you really liked, or anything that you're like, this is kind of odd as a guest, listening to this host, or maybe how they brought you on the show, or communication from the host, anything like that, you're like, it wasn't a great experience. Again, we don't have to name the show, but it wasn't a great experience for you. Is there anything that stands out?
Okay, so I think one thing that is essential when it comes to podcasting is communication and
Yeah.
being able to communicate everything properly. So, especially when you're doing a recording with someone who's not in your same time zone, and they just send you an
Oh,
email and they say, okay, this is when we're going to record, but they don't put the time zone and you think it's your own time zone, like then there's a mismatch there. And it happened
yeah.
to me where they said, yeah, we're going to meet at 3 p.m. And I was like, okay, sure, 3 p.m. And then you're waiting and they're like, no, I mean 3 p.m. like Pacific time. I'm like, yeah, okay, but I'm not in the same time zone. And sometimes I usually tend to ask, like, I want you to send me a calendar invite rather than send me an email, just putting down
Yeah.
the time. I think that with the calendar invite, it's reflected on your calendar and you see the time zone. That's very important, I think, to like make it clear on the time. And also the other thing is to basically tell your guests what to expect, because some of them they
Right.
tell you, yeah, it's going to be a free flow conversation, but then the guest is not quite sure if they have to prepare on something, at least to have a theme or an idea. If
Right.
they have to have some let's say if they have to share a resource or key takeaway message, I think it's good for the guests to be prepared, because there were times where I would go on a show and they were like, oh, do you have any books that you want to talk about? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I have so many books, but if you told me before, I was going to choose one that was more pertinent to the episode. So that's
Right.
also very important. And so that the guest knows what to expect from an episode, especially when it's their first time, and also to tell your guests if this is a video or audio podcast, because
Hmm.
there were times where they would not tell me that this was video, and then I would show
Right.
up in my pajama and I
Yeah.
had to tell
Right.
them I need 10 minutes to prepare this if you're releasing the episode on YouTube. So that those are, I would say, those are three important things to note
Right.
down. Yeah.
Smart. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have to run to another thing, so I want to end off. But I do want to say before you go, I love having you here, Urmi. So would you please commit to sometime in the future, sometime, to come back, give us updates on your show, on your journey? You're just, I think I could talk to you for hours. You just got so much great insight and you're fun to talk to. So please consider coming back in the future.
Sounds good. I will.
Okay. So I want you as a podcaster to wrap up the show. And I would love for you, I'm going to sit back in the audience now. This is your podcast right now, Yurmi, okay? I want you to talk to that person that's listening who wants to do what you are doing. They don't feel like anybody's going to listen to them. Who cares what I have to say? I'm afraid of technology. I don't think I can do this. From your perspective, from your chair and your microphone, to that person, I want you to end off the conversation before we go. Talk to that person, encourage them. What do you want to say to that listener?
So my message for the audience today is that if they want to work on a project, they want to start a project, especially when it comes to podcasting, they should just jump on the opportunity. It's easy to do. There are so many free resources out there. You mentioned the book. There is also YouTube, and there are also a bunch of podcast shows that talk about it. And the good thing about podcasting is that it requires no expertise or any type of investment, like no financial investment. So it's easy to do. And if you have that idea, just go for it. It's going to be a great experience for you to grow personally, professionally. It will help you to be out there, grow your personal brand. So my message is, if you're afraid of something, just do it anyway. And before we wrap up this episode, I do want to invite everyone to leave a review, put a 5-star review for the podcast show, to make sure to share it with friends and family, because I do think that you do provide great resources when it comes to podcasting.
Excellent. And everyone head over to Yurmi's podcast. Do the same thing. 5-star review. Leave comments on Spotify. Do whatever you can and tell somebody as well about Yurmi's show. Again, reminder, the book, The Audience is Listening, A Little Guide to Building a Big Podcast by Tom Webster is the book we talked about earlier. Grab a copy of that. Put it right beside your microphone. Yurmi, thank you so much for being on the show. And you got to come back because you're so much fun to talk to. Thank you for making time for us today, Yurmi.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcast with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review. Do the follow. Go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast because you're going there and you're staying to the end. Probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode.